Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Bill.
How are you?
Good. You got a new Chicago rep today.
For the day.
Yeah, not Blackhawks. We're going Bulls.
Yeah, I realized I have lots of hats, and I realized I've only been wearing the Red Hawks one. So I needed a power shirt today because I have a lot to do. So I decided to go ahead and wear a hat that went with power shirt. So here we are.
It is Thursday.
It is it is the most Thursday of Thursdays, I would say.
Every Thursday is a Thursday, isn't it? Hey, Gabriel, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Gabe?
It's Thursday.
Love it. It is Thursday. Man.
Well, tell me about your Wednesday. How'd that go?
You know, it was interesting. I am finding myself having this kind of renewed sense of like purpose and energy and focus in the late afternoons. So at about 3:00, I just drop into the zone of like, let's go for like let's do all this stuff, right? And so I've been trying to like schedule my days to where like that's where I'm doing my CRM kind of build outs and stuff like that, so that I can be in the software and everything else. So you know, I got a lot done on a CRM build yesterday, which is good. Coaching call was awesome. Today is role plays. I've got to catch up with a guy who's doing some cold email for me because so far it's been kind of not a solid fit. So we're going to talk about some positioning and some different ways of making all that happen. Let's see. I just restarted my machine right before this, which is why I was late. Good morning, Michelle. And my calendar colors changed due to the restart, and it is throwing me off so bad right now because like I've got a lot of different calendars in this one calendar, and everything that was blue yesterday is now green, and it's just enough that it's like, okay, this isn't my calendar.
That's funny.
So yeah, I've got So I've got a call with my cold email guy. I have a call with a client. I need to finish up another call with a client because he's in his, final decision-making phase. You know, he's picked his CRM. We've got that set up, and now we're looking at some cold emails and some dialers for him and stuff like this, just to make it easier. And then I've got a call with that one real estate hosting client that we're having some issues with, but this should be the end of it. So big day because I've also got to write my Sherpa. I've also got to work with, I'm going to be having my role play groups here today as well. It's going to be a big day, man. I got a lot to do.
Well,
way more than 3 things.
Yeah. So there's a big 3 with like subs, a bunch of subs under those big 3. So mine's not quite as big as yours, but it's still quite a decent bit. I've got a decent amount of email to write today. I want to squeeze in at least a little bit of work on that landing page for this show.
Yes.
So we're going to be putting a landing page together for this and body URL, morningbill.com. and
morningbill.com. Yes, we now own it. We will. Yeah.
We're going to be working on some things.
Yes, you will be able to sign up for the Morning Bill email newsletter very soon, which talks about our bets, a little bit more methodology, about why we're doing all this and who we are and everything else like this. So it's going to be good. So
and it's just really to help chart us better too. It's not so much like, hey, come get on our email list and buy all the things. It's like, all right, how can we show better value in the way that we chart so that we can hit the goals better? And then to help you, it's even better. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. The goal is not to clog up your email with yet something else that like you bog through and stuff like that. But we cover a lot of information on here, right? And we think it's valuable to a large subsection of people. So what we're going to the cool thing about this tool is we can do like a weekly roundup, and that's going to be awesome. So if you're not watching this live every morning, you'll still be able to see it in various ways. So
it's going to be pretty boss, I think. So. And then my third on my big 3 list, it's actually 12, but we'll just go with 3, is I got LinkedIn Navigator work to do today. I'm going to be looking for some new audiences and build some new list out and stuff. So
nice. Have you played with Meet Alfred yet?
No, Meet Alfred. Don't give me something else to do.
It's another LinkedIn tool. It's pretty legit so far from what I've seen.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, and that other tool, I need to shoot a loom for you and show it to you. That one that I messaged you about with the with the quick little things.
What's it called again?
Let me find the name of it again. I don't know if the guy wants it like out there.
Wow. Yeah, I get you.
So
cool. All right. Well, so that's my big three. I'm headed. I've actually finished my BIL bet. It just wasn't as big a project as I thought it was going to be. Like that offer. So really, what I need to do is to get people through the offer. You know, to make sure it's the right thing.
Yeah.
That's been my aha moment here in the last few days. So I told John I finished up the Inner Game of Tennis. I read a book called Obviously Awesome. It's about positioning that I handed to John that now he's feeling the weight of fully.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've read a couple books, and then there's another book I went back and reread 2 chapters of. I forget the name of it, just because of these 2. It was an old book that I was like, I need to go back and reread what this guy said about kind of this stuff. All that point being is, at the end of the day, it's that whole get something out and get an offer in front of people and see if it works, instead of spending so much time like thinking about how to word and position and do all these things. It's like, get it out there. Just get it out there. And then the second half of it is get it in front of the right people. Don't just give it to your friends. Don't just give it to your former clients. Give it to the people that you actually want to work with, and be like, hey, how is this? You know?
Yeah.
So that's been the reminder for me the past few days. Is target like mad, and then test.
Yeah. I like the very beginning of that book, because it's like the context of what you're thinking your product or service in is going to define like how you think about it, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to define like so much. And she talks about the cake pop idea of like, if you just show up and say, cool, I've invented cake 2.0, right? Yeah. It's just, it's just like cake on a stick, but it's not really what you made, and by changing it just a little bit and accepting that it's no longer just cake 2.0, but it's a cake pop, right? And it's this whole other thing entirely, and it can be artisanal and, kind of nice in upper end, whereas like the cake on the stick, no one's paying any money for.
No, it's sloppy, it's weird.
Yeah, exactly. But like a cake pop, like, man, you see all the soccer moms and kids at Target walking around eating them because they just got them at Starbucks and stuff like this.
Yep.
It's really interesting, interesting, and I'm excited about it. I hope that at the end of the book, I leave with lots of information that helps me do this better. So
I'm going to read it again as soon as I get it back. Actually, I'm going to go through. It's just so clear in how it's like, yeah, you have to read it to really understand what it's trying to do to you. But like, it's like doing this with binoculars, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just so good, and it's you're right. It's clever the way that it talks about the audience that you're selling to decides what your product is. You don't. You have a solution that you're trying to get out there, or something that you're trying to get to, but they're the ones that are going to like name it, right? They're the ones that are going to be like, because at the end of the day, like a lot of times we talk about offline, just personal brand stuff, just off and on, right? Mm-hmm. And your personal brand is just what people say about you, right? Now you can craft it and do all these different things to show what you want to show, but like just what people say about you. And positioning is the same way. Your product is what people say it is. It's awesome.
I heard a guy, and I don't know if he came up with this, but I might have said this before on here, that like marketing is what you say when you're in the room, and then branding is what other people say about you after you've left the room.
Right.
And that's really interesting to me. Like when you think about it like that, and then all the stuff about the positioning is kind of blowing my mind away. I love it. I love how there's so much nuance into any one of these like little bitty things you want to get sucked into. It is crazy.
I sent some questions over to a potential client yesterday because they're doing some customer interviews because they want to know better what their positioning is, like with their current clients that are just killing it. And one of the questions I was having them ask was, what are we? Describe to us. What are we? No boundaries. Tell us what we are. Tell us in one sentence and tell us in one paragraph. What are we? What do we do? Because when you do that with your like 10 best customers, it'd be crazy what comes back. Like why they hire you comes out, and like what they think you are, right? So I can't see those answers when they come back.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be curious to see what that looks like, because like, I posted this on LinkedIn, like one of my good friends who's also a client, and you know him as well. We recently started working together, but like he's been following my stuff for a while, and we've known each other for a while. And, we were chatting via text, and he said something about like a hat or something like this. And I was like, if you want a hat, how come you're not referring me? Just like as a joke, and he's like, well, I don't really know how. And I'm like, well, that's a problem, and that's what's kind of got me started thinking about this whole thing about, coach versus consultant versus agency and what the differences are and how do people think about it and stuff like this. And, like it's like, I don't know. I just come in, if you have a sales problem, I fix it, it's like, is what it is. But like, depending upon what that actual problem looks like in the day-to-day application of it, the resultant work and effort is going to be different, right? Which makes me, I would say, more of a consultant than anything else, but I can also coach around like the behavior changes necessary to go do this well. So it's kind of like 6 of one, all of the other. So
yeah, I've had an interesting. Actually, I talked to Matt Gagnon on. He's big on LinkedIn. He also has pretty good LinkedIn following now too. Gagnon. He's done in Austin, but he was the one that told me that really coaching is helping people through a framework, like help them achieve something through a framework that you don't necessarily have built. Your job is to make sure that they stay in the framework and do it, right? Whereas a consultant is, I have answers to your problem.
You have what?
Answers to your problems. You have a problem, I have an answer, I'm going to fix it for you. Whereas a coach is, you have a problem, and now we're going to figure out together what the right, path is, and I'm going to help you stay on that path. So that's how consultants can be like one and done, whereas a coach typically is, you're sticking around for a while to make sure people get through stuff. May not be the one with the actual answer, but you are the one that's going to make sure that they stick with it, and stay in it and help them. So that was a pretty good differentiator for me when he told me that. I was like, yeah, I guess that's true. Like, as a real coach, a football team isn't necessarily the one that writes up the plays, right? You have an offensive coordinator that does that, but the coach is going to make sure everyone's sticking with the drills, showing up on time, challenging them, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would say that I'm both, right? Because
depends on the subject.
It depends upon the need, right? Because sometimes it's figuring out a way to build lists easier and get appointment setters to make appointments for you.
Right.
It's and sometimes it's just like, okay, you're the salesperson and you're just not doing it right, or you're not happy with your outcomes. Okay, great. Let's talk about how you're having this conversation. And I got in this argument yesterday on Facebook because this person in one of these groups said, how many times do you ask for the business? Right? If they keep telling you no, how many times did you ask? And I was like, well, and what she's doing, right, is she's trying to stir up stuff, right? So I was like, cool, I'll come engage on your stuff. And I was like, look, until there's a conversation, you're still marketing, right? And you can market and do a sales funnel and stuff like this, and market down to the lowest common denominator, and go for a volume play, totally fine. But not everybody wants to do that. So, because I was like, you should only have to ask once, right?
That goes against what you even say, though, because
why is that?
Because follow up. Because they're not always going to say yes the first time. The timing may be wrong. The needs may not be quite right for you yet, but they still want to work with you. But it's just not the right time. Because any sales coach in any discipline will tell you follow-up is where most of the businesses want, right?
But okay, so the important thing to think about, right, with how people are running these businesses is, so you get your email list and you put out an offer, right?
Yeah.
Of some way, shape, or form, right? And then someone is like, boom, they raise their hand, and they say, cool, I want to talk more about this. You get them on a call, right? You should only have to have that call once. You should only have to have that conversation, or the meat of that conversation should only have to happen one time, right? Because here's the deal. When you're doing this, right, and you're a consultant or coach or something else like this, you don't have time to be like chasing people to like, hey, like see if these offers are valid and stuff like this. Like you have the email list so that way they're knowing who you are, you're building authority, you're talking to them at their level and stuff like this, and then you put out an offer, right? Hey, look, for the next week, I'm talking to some people who want to go on this journey with me. If you'd like to talk, go on the journey with me, let's book a call. And then when we get on that call, I'm going to say, hey, Jake, at the end of this conversation, this might not be a fit for you. Totally okay for that. But if we don't check all the boxes, and if this isn't sounding like something that's 100% yes for you, can we just agree that we'll leave it at a no? So that way you're not trying to figure out if this fits and everything else. It's my job to like make sure that this is a good
thing. So hear me here, Ben. If you're talking about the fit, not the timing, right?
Well, no, I'm talking about both, right? Because the thing to remember, right, is that most people do this part really, really, really badly, right? So what they say is hey, Jake, right, you're in marketing, right? I can help you with the marketing. Let me show you how to do this stuff and everything else, right? And you're on my email list because you look up to me because I'm a great marketer. And I say, hey, I'm doing a workshop. Jake raises his hand and says, I'd like to learn more about this. Let's have a call. Cool. We hop on like a 30-minute call. My frame at the beginning of that thing is that, Jake, I have no idea if this is really what you need or not. I got to ask you a bunch of questions. You got a bunch of questions for me. We'll work through those things. My goal is to make sure we can leave here at an absolute yes or an absolute no, even if that means that you don't want to work with me on this. Is that okay?
You have follow up with those people that say no?
They get put back into like the long-term nurturing.
Okay, so that's follow-up of sorts.
Well, yeah, but like I think about it as active follow-up of, the voicemail jail, the DM, hey, I'm just checking in on this.
Okay.
All of that stuff. Yeah. Because what happens is most people are not comfortable asking for a no at the end of the conversation, or really owning the idea that if you're not at 100% yes, you are at a no. And the only person who's going to get past that is the prospect. So empower them as opposed to doing the standard crappy sales stuff of assuming the sale and assuming the close and all of this nonsense. Give people honest out so that way they're honest with you. Because when they're honest with you, because you're drawing them out, it strengthens your position and their position anyway. So
I got it. So there's no follow-up sales calls. It's you put them back into nurture, and if they get to a spot where they want to have another sales call in the future, you're open to that, but you're not chasing anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with that. Yeah, I thought you meant like, nope, sorry, for enough for today, we're done. Bye.
But what happens, right? And this is not across the board, but this is what happens in these communities where people are just starting out and they don't have any sales training, they've never done this before, and they're just kind of they're caught in this trap of like you got to provide value before you ask for money, right? Because like people talk about this all the time, and sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. It kind of depends upon how you're built and all of these things like this. But what a lot of people take that to mean is you have to go do shit for free for people to get them to pay you.
Right.
And no, right? Yeah. So, but how you frame that conversation, how you lead that conversation as the salesperson, as the person who's been there multiple times is super important. And most people don't do like, if a good sales chat is going to be like 100% of like good framing, getting a decision, probing and everything else like this, most people are probably operating at about 30% of that. That's right. Because they don't know that they're not framing, they're not getting buy-in permission, they're not doing all these things. So what they do is they get to the end of it and they say, how about now? And then the person is probably like, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Right. And then, okay, well, just think about it. Just take a couple of days. I'll follow up with you, right? And this is where it all falls apart, right? The reason why they're there talking to you is so that way you are the backstop to help them figure out if this is the thing that they need or not. If you can't do that and be like, look, if we're not at 100% yes, we should probably just like leave this alone for right now, and maybe a future offer makes more sense.
Do you think the same thing happens when people like webinars are, I think, a good example right now. People force you into a sales call quickly, based on momentum off of like a webinar where they got people excited, and then they hit the call, and the volume of the calls off the webinar is the KPI,
Mm-hmm.
or the quality of the person coming off.
Well, I mean, so it kind of depends, right? It depends upon how you do the webinar, how that's scheduled, and stuff like this. But if you're gonna market a webinar that's like one of these bad ones where there's no real value, and you just brag about how you killed it for one client, and then you ask for more clients at the end of it, which is BS.
Which is what I was on yesterday. It's stupid.
Yeah, there's so many bad ones, but all you have to do is just change this a little bit, right? Like you're running the webinar, and then the way that you build it is you say, look, the content is all here. You can have all of it. This is exactly the methodology that we do. Yep. But if you would like us to do this for you, take this off of your hands, knock this out, build this out, strategize to make it yours and everything else like this, let us know in some way, shape, or form. Raise your hand here, send us a message. We'll give you a call. We'll talk a little bit further about it, see if it's a fit for you, right?
Right.
If the people who raise their hands from that, like those are real leads, right? But like I know some of these closers who were expected to like close every person who shows up for a 45-minute webinar, right? And they're being held to this metric of conversion off of the webinar rates. Right. Well, we had 85 people sign up for the webinar. How many of them did you close? Well, how many attended the webinar? How many asked for a follow-up after the webinar, right? Mm-hmm. So there's so many people who are still putting like salespeople into these spots to where they're essentially, they can't do it well because of the expectation, because of how it's built and stuff like this. I downloaded a thing from another sales guy, and it was like a $27 thing or something like this, right? So now I'm in his funnel, and within a couple of hours, right, I'd already received the thing in my email, right? But the guy sends me a text message. Hey, John, saw that you signed up for this. We've had a hiccup in the back system. Did you get it? And I did get it, right? So now my walls are up already, right? And so he's like, because at the time I was checking a different email, and I said, no, I don't have it. And he was like, okay, let me check on that. And then we followed up later, and I was like, you know what? Wrong email. I do have it. And he goes, cool. When do you want to hop on a call? And I said, I don't, right? I'm too busy this week. I have too much going on. I don't have time. And so this is all on Monday. So he sent me a message yesterday asking if I have 30 minutes today, and this is like the worst part of all of it, right? Because when you've got to be persevering as a salesperson, you got to be persistent. You have to do those nudges, but there's a way to do it in a completely different way. If that guy had said, okay, cool, not this week, is there a better week? Right? I just want to make sure that you get the most value out of the thing that you downloaded. I would have said yes to that. But because of how he's framing it, of how about now? How about now? It's just like when you're talking to your kids, and it's like, well, don't be a yeah but salesperson. Like communicate open and honestly with your friends and give them control, because that's what everybody wants. And the people who have sold you stuff in the past, who you don't associate with the mental label of salesperson and all the stigma and toxicity that goes along with that in most people's heads, are the people who are giving you the most control possible in your sales conversations with them. Mm-hmm. The ones who don't do that are the ones that everybody hates, right? These people who assume the sale and push and push and push and push and push. You can only push so much before you actually blow somebody out of the water. And that's okay, right? Depending upon who you are. But,
it doesn't take that long anymore either, because most people already at the start. So. Yeah.
So yeah. I want to text this guy back and be like, does this follow-up point work well for you?
Well,
right? But
the way
that's
going to be defensive.
Exactly, for sure, right? I mean, yeah. But like, dude, my wall, it's so crazy how walls up I am. Like this dashboard company that I had the call with the other day that I told you about. Yeah. I got that from like a cold email, right? Cold email. Hey, I would love to open a conversation about this tool. We've had some success with other people. Sure, got some concerns. And so I'm chatting with this guy, and then in my email to him, I said, look, if you're a third party cold email provider, I want to talk to you. And then he responded back, and he was like, I'm actually an in-house BDR. And I was like, okay, cool. If that changes, you come talk to me, my friend.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's so many different ways to prospect and get in front of people. It's not difficult. You just got to find some ways, and you got to be really consistent with it, so that way you can play with it enough to actually get it figured out.
Yeah, and I think tell me if you think differently, but like I feel like when you need to go find one or two marketing channels that work well for you before you start spreading yourself all over the place, because you just can't get the learning you need. So I think probably prospecting would be the same way. Like if you think cold email could work for you, you got to get into cold email and really try it out for a while. And
right, because there's a lot that goes into that, of tweaking the messaging, and there's nuance to it, right? I mean, there's video stuff like Vidyard. There's all the best practices around short emails and everything else like this. I mean, there's so much information out there. And once again, it's one of these things that I assume everybody's doing this, right? Like everyone's doing cold email, everyone's doing all of this stuff, and largely it's not true. So, but there's so many different ways to prospect. You don't have to do any one that you don't like. Just find out one that works for you and dial it until you can do it in your sleep.
Yep.
That's the jam. Put it.
80-20 is a real thing. It's more like 90-10. The older I get, it's 90-10. It's not 80-20.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Cool, man. Well, anything in your way today?
Just me, per usual.
That's right. It's right here. There it is.
Only me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got a message from a guy who solid connection. We might do some work together, and he's like a webinar script writer, right? And so cool guy. His name's James, and he's like, man, I bought like a little sales bundle. I was like, cool, how is it? And he was like, it's actually mostly mindset and attitude. And I was like, it's 90% mindset and attitude, and then the other 70% is technique.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Thanks, Gabriel, man. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Gabe.
So you say that to John every day. I'm just arrogant enough to know that I'm valuable, but just humble enough not to say it all the time. John's still working on. Everybody knows this. I don't need to talk about this. Everybody knows this. Like all my friends know this. Yeah.
What?
Well,
all my head trash.
So much info and value, and you forget how much info and value you bring. You're like, oh, everybody uses cold email. Oh, everybody does this.
Everybody knows this stuff, right? Like, I mean, it's like I can't even. I posted this yesterday because like I've been getting a couple of like messages of people who are like, hey man, love the show, and I'm like, first of all, what show? Which sounds stupid, arrogant, and cocky. Like, oh my god!
Yeah.
And then second of all, I do a sales show for salespeople, and then whenever someone reaches out to me and says, "Hey, John, love the show," all I can think about is you're just trying to sell me something. Literally, Clint got a DM from a guy and was like, hey man, I love the show. And Clint was like fired up, and he took a screenshot and sent it to like everyone in the pod group and everything. And I was like, oh, wait for the pitch. And he was like, dude, why do you got to be such a dick? And I was like, it's not intentionally being a dick, but like, this is how you build rapport with people now. Like you go find the stuff that they're into, and you go deeper. You don't go wider. So just wait for a pitch. Mm-hmm. And so, it's so bizarre, right? Like do these things to build some authority. And now that I've got a little bit of authority, I'm just like, I don't deserve this. It's, man, the head trash is deep, everybody. And everybody has it, just in different formats. So,
yeah, that's what shape is yours. It's the only difference.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mine's bald shape. My head trash. It's all the way up the brim,
Dude, that's why I grew the hair out. I was running out of room.
You go out on the limbs.
Yes. Yeah. My hair serves like a heat sink for all my head trash. Right? It allows it to dissipate without leaving me crying in the shower with all my clothes on.
That's right. Steaming off the top of your head.
Exactly. Just endlessly radiating.
Oh man. Wow. Well, that went off quickly.
Yeah. But this is the jam, right? So how do you build the system in a way that works for you, right? And you have your way, and I have my way, and we kind of figure it out and stuff like this. Like what I can't wait for is when someone comes to us and they say, "Cool, Jake, I need your help with the marketing side of this," and then John, I need your help with the sales side of this, and we just crush it for somebody.
Yeah, pass it back and forth.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. That'll be dope.
There
So
we go. All right, dude. Well, day 15.
it's 8:15. We got to get to work. I got a
Get to work.
lot to do.
Schlot.
Schlot to do.
That's a good idea. Put it down.
What? Schlot to do?
I have a lot to do.
Okay, I'm putting it in my thing.
Oh, real. Because I would wear that one. What is that?
Let me put that in my.
SHLOT.
Yeah.
Schlot. All right, guys.
Yeah, I'll do that in a second. Short ideas. And guys, go kill your day. It's Thursday. This week is almost done. And the month is almost done. Like, we are 30 days into the third quarter of this year. How incredibly stupid does that sound coming out of my mouth?
Oh my! Might actually end. We're actually making progress through it.
Oh God.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you then. You get to work and have a good one.
You too, man.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, Bill.